Hey everyone, this is Car Ray Rob, where I'm Ray.
And I'm Rob.
And this is our podcast, Hello Movies, My Old Friend.
Hello, movies. Hello, movies. Hello, movies. My old friend. That's right, everyone. We're back with a brand new episode of Hello Movies, My Old Friend, where Ray and I revisit old classics from our childhood to see if they still hold up.
And a lot of times they don't.
No, we have not. We have not had a great track record. I will be honest.
That's funny. You'd think the first season of this, like the first 10 to 12 episodes, we would be hitting home runs every time, but we have not.
No, it has been a rocky road, and we're almost a year into this thing.
I know, we're getting close.
We are getting close.
So this month we have a fun one, I think.
I mean, I don't know if the word fun is what I would use, but I remember fondly watching this movie as a kid.
Yeah, I remember watching terrorists take over the school and think it was the funnest, coolest thing ever. As the kids defend themselves.
I mean, that's fair. That's fair. So to let everybody in, we are watching Toy Soldiers, starring Sean Astin, who, I mean, really at this period in his life was just in everything, it seemed like.
Yeah, he was hitting a lot of home runs. And I don't really remember his career being as good as it was, but we keep finding more and more things he was in that we're like, oh yeah, I like that.
But as Ray said, the story revolves around a all-male military boarding school, I remember. And I think they're all the sons of famous generals, like military people.
I think so.
Or government people.
Yeah.
And a band of terrorists take over the school. I have no idea what nationality or anything like that was for the terrorists.
I don't know if they go into it or not.
I don't even remember who plays the terrorist at this point.
No. I just remember the cast. Remember a couple shots in my brain, in my mind's eye, of them like maybe scaling the building, like to get around classrooms and stuff.
I think you might be right.
Yeah, so I just remember it being kind of fun and exciting, and kind of thinking I would like to be a hero and save the school.
Sure. Yeah, I know Wil Wheaton is also in this movie, and Louis Gossett Jr.
Oh, very cool.
Is also in this movie. So
yes, I remember that. Yeah. I remember him in it. Yes.
Yeah. But that's basically all I remember.
Yeah, I think I used to watch this movie like on TBS when it came around, and I know for a fact I haven't seen it probably since middle school.
Yeah, I remember some heavy stuff does happen in this movie though.
Yeah.
But, I mean, again, it's just kind of, I do feel like this was a movie that was made a lot at this time, maybe a little bit like a Red Dawn situation.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember Red Dawn with Patrick Swayze and, so.
The remake with Chris Hemsworth.
You know what? I never did watch the remake.
I did.
We're going to have to keep that one in mind for another show that we do. But Toy Soldiers, again, you're right. Like, as a kid, I do remember, this kind of story where it's like, kids and teens taking, standing up and we can save the day. Like, that being like a very, terrifying, admittedly, but also like exhilarating kind of thing for a young kid.
Yeah, I'm interested to see if it's like timely still.
Yeah, that one's going to be tough.
See how that kind of like plays, like, this overrun school, and obviously we get one or two of these a year, so we'll see how that plays out.
I mean, that's a really good point. This is a heavy thing to watch in the climate, if you will, that we live now. But we'll see if that overshadows our nostalgic memories for this movie.
I am hoping that we like this movie as much as we think we will. We liked Burglar last month. That was our last month, or was that 2 ago?
Last month was Blank Man.
Oh my gosh, you're right. But I did like Blankman too, so maybe we are on a run. Maybe we are on a little bit of a run. And this is where we invite you guys to pause the podcast if you haven't checked out Toy Soldiers in a really long time. Hopefully you like it. If you don't, you're going to have to come back and see if me and Rob didn't like it, or if we do think the movie holds up, and I really hope it does.
Ray and Rob are currently watching the film. You may be also watching the film. If you're not, then you're listening to me say that Ray and Rob are watching the film. They'll be right back when they're done watching the film.
All right, everyone, we are back. We have escaped the terrorists. We have saved the school. And we are back to report on everything we watched in Toy Soldiers.
Well, hopefully we get more credit than the group did, because that's one thing I wrote down about the ending of the movie. Like, they literally saved the school, and at the end, nobody gives them a high five, like, except each other. Everybody just walks away and leaves.
There was not a high five to be had.
Can I get a little thanks that you didn't get bombed?
That's true.
A pat on the back, just a tiny one.
That's a fair point. But before we jump into the movie itself, I have a question. This isn't Say Hello, where we have this big philosophical question or anything like that. This is Hello Movies, where we have a little bit more fun. But I did have a little bit of a question, just kind of about this movie. What you think? What demographic do you think this movie was made for? After rewatching it, I'm really curious.
Men. I think.
Sure. Okay.
I think it's.
Well, what age group?
Yeah. I mean, my gut, when you first asked me, that says Die Hard-ish type. Sure. Coming off the heels of that, but I guess it would be younger.
Right, and that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I'm curious. Like, it seems like a movie that was kind of made and marketed for, 25 to 40. Like you said, kind of like Die Hard, whatever, action guys. But, like while I'm watching it, I'm also like, this feels like a movie that was, like, kind of made really for, like, 12 to 25, maybe 21. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's kind of
college kids,
high
school kids.
Exactly. So I'm. It almost felt like John Hughes made a terrorist movie in some ways.
Why did he not ever try? That's pretty good. It's a pretty good comp there. That sounds interesting, though.
Exactly. And it could just be because obviously this group of guys, which they're. You're rewatching this movie, revisiting this movie. Like, I remembered the chemistry of the guys, this group of friends, and it still lived up even in the rewatch for me.
Yeah, I thought the group was really great in this. I thought Sean Astin was great in this.
Yeah,
he was like kind of gets to play the bad boy a little bit, which you don't really see him as much.
Sure, like a jockey almost, like Sean Astin. He's just walking around in cutoffs, and he had like a Thorier vest for you Valiant Thor fans out there.
Yeah, and I think the whole group kind of takes turns. Like, I'll be shirtless this scene. You don't have pants on in this scene. Like, right. They all share the load in that way.
Oh, share the load.
Let me share the load. Oh, Sean
I can carry it a bit.
There we go, Lord of the Rings fans. You knew there was going to be something there. So there it was. But yeah, so but I do think the group dynamics is like what kind of you kind of get attached to. They're a good group of friends. They're different enough, but like they're really like solid as a friend group.
Yeah, and they do a good job of setting it up quickly. You've got that whole scene where Sean Astin is kind of pushing this idea of the mouthwash scheme, or whatever. Well, and I guess even before that, like there's that little bit where they're like messing with the guards or whatever, and they're like spray painting.
They work together, and
right? But then then you have that whole thing where they they do the sneaking out and go to the basement or this like secret room or whatever, which obviously comes into play later. But it shows Sean Astin is a kind of he's a crafty guy. He's a smart guy. He kind of knows how technology works and like does these kind of things.
And people will follow him.
Right. And then like you said, you kind of get the rest of the group involved. So you got Wil Wheaton.
We got Will.
You got Wil Wheaton in there, which is great.
And he kind of does some of this New York accent at times. And I hate fake accents in movies. But his dad is a New Jersey mobster, so they have to you gotta give me a couple words that sound like you're from New York, okay?
Right. Just a little bit though, because
it's very often on. He forgets about it for the most part.
Probably just couldn't do it that well. And they're like, well, just get it in a little bit,
once or twice.
And it's fine. But then you got Keith Coogan. From Adventures in Babysitting and Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead.
He's the cool guy in Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. He's kind of the nerdy guy here. What range this actor has.
I know, but he's great. Snuffy. Seems snuffy because he just keeps sneezing. He's got and wheezing. He's got the asthma.
Yeah, the uncurable asthma.
Right, and then you kind of got Ricky Montoya, Hank Giles. And then there's like some other kids that like come in and out, but I think that's the core. That's the core group, and they all play really well off of each other. Not
to jump the shark, but I think this movie's old, so we can spoil parts. Wil Wheaton dies in this movie, and I think like a test of is this a good friend group would be, does that scene hit you? Do you still do you remember that scene? Feeling like emotional? Were you emotional with it this time?
Yeah, absolutely. That was definitely going into it. There were moments in the movie that I'm like, I remember feeling something. I remember like
I did not remember Wil Wheaton dying in this, so that was a surprise to me.
I did remember Wil Wheaton. I remember somebody dying, but I didn't. For some reason, I thought it was Ricky Montoya, but it was Wil Wheaton. And yeah, it definitely still hit, which I thought was good. You know, I
thought it was a good little death scene.
Yeah,
I will say that I think they didn't do him any favors in acting like he didn't know how to shoot a machine gun. Like he you know, he steals the gun. This was his plan from the jump.
Right.
And then as he starts shooting, he like just starts flailing in the air. He looks like he's like a 30-pound guy trying to hold a gun.
Well, he is a kid, you know. It's like he's probably never shot a submachine gun in his life, even with his dad being a monster.
You're about to kill him. Give him a moment where he looks cool. He can shoot he can shoot the bad guy in the leg and then die.
A bullet in the leg. Just couldn't you not have given Joey Trotta a bullet in the leg? Come on.
Yeah, but yeah, I think that you know, seeing the group's reaction, Sean Astin's like, you know, heavily emotional. I think that part was good, and that's how you know I think it was a good friend group when that part hits.
Yeah, and the chemistry is good, but you know, one thing I will say is, you know, with a movie like this, and especially kind of going back to what we were talking about demographics, there's usually, you know, in a movie, just always there's a character arc, you know, like a journey that a character goes through. But I will say, I feel like, and this is kind of what makes me think that this movie is kind of geared towards a younger audience, is like the arcs weren't really that big.
No.
And I think that was one thing that I didn't necessarily remember about this movie. I kind of maybe thought it was a little bit more emotionally deep on that end than what it ended up being. Yeah,
they're really, I mean, really, you could almost argue there aren't any arcs, where it's like Sean Astin's really the only one that they're trying to do this arc of, like,
that's fair.
He's the bad boy kid who's never going to fall in line. But then, like, the arc of the movie is like, he doesn't fall in line and it saves the day.
Right.
So,
right.
What?
Like, and like Louis Gossett Jr. has the line at the end where it's like, you know, you became the leader. You're like, you were a leader, and you did this. It's like, well, he's always the leader. He was the leader in the beginning. Like, he was leading that group, doing all kinds of
wrong path.
Right. You know, he was the genius guy who figured out the mouthwash. But
really, it kind of feels like at the end he was like, you know, because Louis Gossett Jr. in a way saved Sean Astin's life, and so it's like he's like, well, you saved my life. I guess I'll be good now. And that's not really an arc necessarily.
Right.
It's like, I owe you one, so I won't harass you and be the worst kid.
I might graduate now. Well, you damn well should. I saved the school. Like, I should graduate right now.
Don't drop out now. Right. But yeah. So I will say a little thin there. But for the most part, I feel like I'm able. Like, it was fun enough where I can kind of forgive some of that to me. Like, I thought I was having kind of fun throughout, either watching the kid, how they were sneaking around the school, how they kind of were like Dennis the Menace, where they kept finding ways to like get under the leader's or the teacher's skin.
Yeah, which is, you know, it kind of goes back to that tonal balance that I was kind of talking about as far as like demographics go. Because I mean, the movie opens with the Luis tally, like in the courthouse in Colombia or wherever it is. And I mean, it's pretty hardcore right off the bat. You know, I mean, they throw that lady out the window, you know, because they're trying to get his dad, but you know, he's obviously been flown to the U.S. and all this stuff. So
throw the judge out of the plane.
They throw the judge out of the plane. Like, they really, you don't hide it in the front, like in the front end, that this is an action movie, and we're going to kind of push the boundaries a little bit. But then, you know, when they get to the school, you know, like I said, you're right. Like, it kind of becomes almost like a Dennis the Menace type, you know, kind of thing. But it's got
Home Alone, a little Home Alone,
right? But it's a little more weight to it.
A little more weight, yeah. I will say, like, I thought when the terrorists get to the school, like, the action would really pick up, but it really doesn't. Like, the terrorists had some really good rules for how to make sure these kids weren't sneaking off. But in my brain, like, the whole time, like, I thought the kids had snuck off. Right. And like, we're going to be causing the terrorist problems throughout the movie, kind of thing.
Sure.
I thought they're going to be hiding in the basement. Like, that's kind of how I remembered the movie. Mm-hmm. But in actuality, like, most of the movie, they're just doing recon.
Yeah, like trying to figure out where everybody is and like what kind of equipment they have.
And they only really have one plan, which, you know, they execute at the end of the movie. That takes a couple, 10 minutes of the movie.
Yeah, because their main plan is just switching the chips, like in the remote control for the bomb and the airplane.
Now, I will say, the scene, I loved the set piece or the action scene where Sean Astin sneaks out of campus, finds the military. You know, that whole plan of how they were distracting the guards with the broken glass, and they were using the toy airplane, and then, you know, Sean Astin's able to sneak off campus, but then once Sean Astin sneaks off campus, he's got to be back in 45 minutes because they're doing a head count. and then the military won't let him go because they're like, we're not going to release you back into a terrorist-held school.
Right, like they'll kill you. They'll kill you. Like they're gonna kill me or kill a lot more people if I don't go. And
right.
I actually
the tension I thought was really good there.
It was really good, but I thought it was like a really kind of dumb thing for them to kind of like, not necessarily believe. I don't know if they didn't believe him or like it just. I liked it in the end, so it was fine.
Yeah.
But like I do feel like them like trying to keep him from going back, like. He's inside, like he knows what the rules are. Like he's telling you that these terrorists are going to kill more.
You're
kids.
kidding.
Like no, you need to stay here. It is like, well, so you want these other kids to die? Like what are you doing?
Yeah.
So yeah,
well, I
think it was a little weird.
I do get a little bit of the accountability that person would have. Like, well, I can't let like. It seems really dangerous that you even snuck out to begin with.
Right, but I was saying, but that's the last guy, But it's, it's just. Yeah. I don't know. Like I said, it's just like, why would he lie? But I guess maybe they didn't think he was lying. It was just like he said, like, oh, I don't want you to get shot by the terrorists getting back in. It's like, I can get back in.
Yeah.
But
I got out. I can get back in. Yeah.
Right.
But even then, like when he comes back, he's late. They're about to kill, and they're doing this recount. And I will say, I did have some issue with the recount scene because this is one of the scenes I actually vividly remember.
Okay.
Is like that they. Some of the kids in the group were trying to get counted twice.
Right.
But the kid that was trying to get counted twice was like the only African American in the whole school.
It was Giles, yeah.
It's like you probably could have picked Snuffy. Like Snuffy looks like an unmemorable face.
Nobody remembers Keith Coogan. I guarantee you, if you're listening to this episode right now, you don't remember Keith Coogan. So this guy definitely wouldn't have.
T. Russell had like a really identifiable hairline. It's like, come on, pick him. He should have only tried to get counted twice. But
that's fair.
But anyway, the Sean Astin, because he had to swim in the river, he like ends up just putting a towel on. And kind of shows, I was in the shower. I lost track of time.
I remembered that going in. I did remember like Sean Astin running in like with the towel on, like being like, I was in the shower. Like I definitely remember that. I did not remember him getting whipped though.
I didn't either. Yeah, I did not remember the consequences of that.
So that got a little dark.
Yeah.
But
I'll say another thing I kind of liked. We've mentioned Louis Gossett a couple of times. Like I liked his I liked that the principal, he wasn't the bad guy. Like I like that the principal and the headmaster were both like they were like actually good people with like honestly trying to help the kids.
Yeah.
Like they have their best interests at heart. They were giving them slack and grace when they were breaking the rules. Like it wasn't like there's this corporal punishment thing at this school.
Yeah.
I kind of like that they weren't the enemy. It was strictly the terrorists.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I think Louis Gossett Jr. definitely cared about each one of these boys. I mean, so much so that even after he kind of busted them on the mouthwash thing and like went and got all the bottles back or whatever, he went and used that with the sheriff. It was kind of a small throwaway scene, kind of, because it was right when the terrorists were taking over the school, so they got called back. But like the whole reason that he was there, and the reason why he was outside the school when this happened, is he was trying to make a deal with the sheriff to keep the boys out of trouble for spray painting rejects on the sheriff's car by blackmailing the sheriff, saying your uncle owns the liquor store, and that's where they got that's where they've sold him this vodka from. And then so I think that was a really good it was kind of, like I said, almost you blink you miss it.
Yeah.
But it was like an endearing scene for Louis Gossett Jr. where it was like, okay, you really do care about these boys.
Yeah, so I kind of like that dynamic was kind of felt to me a little different than maybe what I was expecting. You're just so used to the bad guy with the mean principal, and he's got to use corporal punishment to get him in line, and that's that's not kind of what we were going with here. So so I enjoyed that.
Well, and you got Denholm Elliott as the headmaster, who's like charmingly befuddled.
Yeah.
I mean, he's that way in Indiana Jones, so it's like it's kind of like that same kind of character here. And but I like the idea that there was one on the outside and one on the inside.
Right.
Having Louis Gossett Jr. be on the outside, so and that way the boys have that emotional support on the inside, since they let all the faculty out at the beginning anyway, which like faculty's like, I'm not going down for any of you schmucks.
Yeah. And I like that, the kid they were looking for wasn't at the school when the terrorists got there. Right. So then they're like, let's pull 5 random files and see if these kids have any connections.
Right.
And it is the 5 lead characters' files they get pulled.
I will say that is one thing about this movie. It's like the kids, all those 5 guys always end up together. Like, and like you said, they pull the files, and it just so happens that it's these 5 kids. Like they're always together. Like it's just that seemed a little too on the nose.
Sure.
It's like some random kid could have been, the dad could have been the CEO of the largest weapons manufacturer in the U.S. or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it didn't have to just be these 5 kids. It's like,
because they don't have any more incentive to stop the school from getting blown up because like they were picked out of this line. If they were or were not picked out of this lineup, you know what I mean? Like, of course they're going to want the school to not get blown up.
Right, which I do think is interesting there. And there was a scene that I did not remember when there, I guess it wasn't a press conference, but it felt like it. But it was like all the parents.
Yeah. Town hall meeting.
Right, like a town hall meeting. And like there was this kind of like rich versus poor dynamic in there where they're like, you know, there was one mom that's like, my kid doesn't, you know, we don't have connections at the White House.
Right.
Like, we're on a full scholarship just to go to this school and, you know, all of that kind of stuff. So I do think that there was some interesting stuff in there that they could have explored a little more.
Yeah.
That they just didn't, which, you know, and that, again, it kind of goes back to the whole narrative in general, where it was kind of shallow in most regards.
There's definitely some things where I'm like, why did you do this? Because like even like we just mentioned, like picking all those kids' files and be like, oh, so these are your parents? Like, really, at the end of the day, the only reason he wanted to know who their parents were because he was like, can you get my dad out of jail? Can you get my dad out?
Or I guess have more leverage, I guess, you know. But like,
yeah, but like I said, you probably could have done that with 80% of the kids in that school.
Right, and so it kind of goes back to what I was just mentioning, like a rich versus poor dynamic. Like, is that what you're trying to say? It's like because these 5 kids are, you know, who their parents are, who they are, like they're rich kids, so it's like, okay, there's going to have more leverage. Like, we're definitely not want to get the rich kids killed, but you know, who cares about these poor kids?
Right,
like,
right.
And so I will say that that's a little muddled. I'm curious, like what they
I don't even know what the
demands
like really, because he's like, if you guys don't give me my demands, I'm like, is the only demand like release your father? Like,
right,
I thought that was the only demand.
Right, and there was like one point when he's like, oh, you got to go to read my letter and follow everything to the T, and it's like, well, is it just a 1-sentence letter that says give me my dad back?
Yeah,
like,
yes, it is.
I was gonna say, but
we don't negotiate with care. We will not release one prisoner to save 92 kids.
Yeah,
like, maybe you would.
Yeah, well, but you know, so. And while none of the other parents of these kids comes into play, the only one that does is Wil Wheaton, because you mentioned his dad's a mobster, who apparently like has connections with South American guys, you know, these South American cartel guys, and it's like, okay, so it's a small world, am I right?
And that goes awry because basically this part I thought was going to be interesting, and actually I think that part is interesting because he makes a deal to get Wil Wheaton's dad in the movie makes a deal to get Wil Wheaton taken out, which I thought was very interesting because that kind of is what leads up to Will's death, is that he's not going to go. He's staying with his friends. He's not leaving his friends. And then that's when he like does, you know, tries to steal the machine gun and ends up getting killed. So that part I thought was cool. I like that. I did like the tie-in, though it seemed perfectly cheesy and stuff. But then like after Wil Wheaton's dead, like his dad's not going to accept that it was an accident. So he goes and kills Luis, the terrorist. He kills the dad.
Right.
And they don't do anything with the fact that his dad is dead, which is mind-boggling to me.
It's true. You know, it's a great time bomb, like a ticking time bomb. You know, like, oh,
because once Luis finds out his dad is dead, then he has no reason not to kill everybody at the school.
Right. So you, like, again, kind of have this great ticking time bomb. And, you do nothing really with it. Because in the end, you know, what causes him to push the button on his wrist, which is obviously deactivated at this point, is... be getting pinned in the office because the military guys are raiding anyway.
Right. Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, like you could have done something where it's like, oh, he finally like finds out his dad's dead. He has some kind of like an emotional thing, and like that's when he presses the button because he's like ready to kind of end it all. And the fact that they didn't really do that felt like a missed opportunity.
Yeah, well, because like then it makes you go back and think about like, okay, so what was the point of killing the dad? Was I supposed to be rooting for the mobster's hit on him? Like,
definitely.
Was that supposed to make me feel good? Like Wil Wheaton's dad, who he hates, like killed a guy? Like I don't know. Like, so I just don't get what the point of the scene is when you don't tie it back in, and Luis dies without it ever even knowing his dad's dead.
The point is Jerry Orbach is awesome.
No, he's not credited.
It's true, which is so weird. It is. He's uncredited in this movie, and I don't understand why.
Yeah.
But you know, just as a quick like aside, like I do find like the, you know, as I said earlier, for me, I think that the kids, the group, they really carry this movie. But there is like a really kind of interesting cast of adult characters. You know, we mentioned Louis Gossett Jr. We got Denholm Elliott. Arlie Ermey shows up.
Yeah, he's got a couple
scenes.
Which
is interesting. Even Andrew Divoff, the guy who plays Luis Cali, I thought he's good. You know, and it kind of
he's a good bad
guy. Mason Adams, who plays the FBI deputy director Otis Brown. like he's great, and some people like may know him, may not, but I will say I always know him as he plays the grandpa in Son-in-Law with Pauly Shore.
Oh yeah, I didn't make that connection.
Who sits on the porch and whittles all the time.
Yeah,
it's probably unfair because I'm sure he's got a great filmography that I'm just not as familiar with as I should, but like it just or maybe not, I don't know. Again, I don't know, but like he strikes me as a guy who probably does, but when he popped up, I'm like, oh my god, why aren't you whittling something? Are you Bartles or James?
He really doesn't do much else. He could have been whittling.
He could have been whittling the whole time. And then like a smaller role, Michael Champion, who plays Jack, the blonde, the only Caucasian terrorist in the whole group, but he's in like Total Recall. I think he's also in Beverly Hills Cop, History of the World Part 1. Guy. Yeah, but it's really kind of funny to see him show up as well.
Let's talk about the ending a little bit, because I feel like sometimes the coolest part about these movies is like this third act plan has got to work.
Is, right? It's all that tension. You only had that one tension of them.
This
Sean Astin getting back, and then the big tension scene is this, like at the end.
And I was kind of underwhelmed a little bit, like
oh sure.
They did a good job of like the switching of the chips, right? This was the big thing. Like they had to get the receiver that if Luis, the bad terrorist, if he pressed the button on his wrist, it's going to blow up. So if they're like, well, if we get the receiver chip out, then we're going to, he won't be able to deactivate the bomb.
Right.
So they do a good job of like Snuffy's faking an asthma attack or is having an asthma attack, and that's distracting enough where Sean Astin can like sneak through the vents, get to his office, change the chips out without getting caught. That part was good.
Yeah.
But like the whole like military raiding part, like the whole like concept is based on they got 3 giant helicopters within 10 feet of the school without the tower guards knowing.
Right.
That's the only way this worked. And I was like, what? Like they do the scene literally where the tower guards are like, do you hear that? And you see a helicopter rise up into the line of sight. I'm like, that thing would have been so deafening loud.
You could have heard that from 100 yards away. Or you guys deaf?
I mean, unless those guys couldn't hear like a truck going through a nitroglycerin plant.
You couldn't hear a dump truck driving through a nitroglycerin plant.
Yeah, those aren't the guys you should put on the tower patrol. So.
No, they're the C team.
Yeah,
but a lot of these guys felt like the C team. Bit.
They were like the Batman '60s serial show where like they're the guys who just get beat up every week. So but other than that, like the tension was good. That's like I said, the military raid was kind of whatever, but then another thing I kind of had the problem with was like, and maybe I missed something taking notes, but like, while this is going on, while they're distracted, like the kids, they sneak everybody into the basement.
Right.
And then like everybody's in the basement, which is like hidden, like you're not going to be able to find them.
Sure.
But like Sean Astin stays in the kitchen, and I'm like, go in the basement. Like they won't know where you are.
Well, he's on pots and pans.
He's got to clean.
He's got to clean. He's on pots and pans.
And then of course he gets caught, and you're like, well, why did you go in the basement with everybody else?
Yeah.
I don't get that, but whatever.
Yeah, well, and to be fair, there's a lot of this in this movie. Really, is tension for tension's sake, or like drama for drama's sake. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. And I think there was a little bit of that in this sequence where it was like there's a lot of like perfectly timed bad timing. Like where it was like, oh, like the water. Like when they were switching the chips or whatever, and they're going through the air ducts, and it's like it comes back, and like the kid. So you have this ingenious plan, like keep the water running, and if we hear the water running, we'll know that we can come out. But not taking into account, well, if somebody comes into the bathroom, they wash their hands if they're clean.
Yeah.
If they're clean people, they will wash their hands. And these were very clean terrorists because he washed his hands.
They were. They're not going to get sick.
Exactly. They don't want to spread germs.
Yeah.
So the kid leaves.
Spread bullets, not germs.
Right.
That's their motto.
That's their motto. So he's washing his hands, and they just happen to be coming out of the pipe or the vent right at that time when he's washing his hands, and and they get busted. But then they overpower
easily.
Obviously.
Yeah. Well, then somebody comes in from behind them.
Right.
One of like Ricky comes in from behind,
saves the day.
Yeah.
Not all heroes wear capes, right?
No, and he was not. He was wearing.
Big ups to Ricky.
Yeah, he was wearing a T-shirt and probably jorts. But
it was like John Cena.
Yeah.
T-shirt and jorts.
Anyway, John seemed to be fit right in with early 90s fashion, but
that's true.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't know. For me, like, there was some stuff I was like, all right, this is corny, but I was having enough fun with it where I'm like, I'll let it slide.
Yeah, and like I said, I think if you can kind of wrap your mind about who this movie is really made for,
right?
You know what I mean? I think that if you go into it expecting a Die Hard movie, that's not what you're getting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I said, I feel like you're getting more of like a teenage boy action movie,
yeah.
and they push the envelope again. Like some of the blood like splatter sequences, like I know when Michael Champion finally like buys it on the roof, like it wasn't quite Paul Verhoeven blood, but it was pretty,
Yeah.
And then like we were talking about with those opening sequences and stuff like that, and even having Wil Wheaton die.
Yeah,
he
but got shot pretty viciously, but not really bloody. He was wearing multiple shirts.
Right. So like it kind of that death wasn't quite as bad. I'm sure they did that for a rating.
Yeah.
When you're having a kid like that. But you're right. Like when you can kind of take all of that into account, you can kind of let some of these like narrative failures slide a little bit.
Okay, Rob. Well, I mean, what do you think? We haven't seen Toy Soldiers probably in 25 years, 30 years. We had fond memories of it. Did it hold up for you? What did you think?
I like I said, I went in having some of those memories of like emotional beats that I think still hit. Like I said, Wil Wheaton, getting killed. I remember that. I remember the tension scene of what we talked about with Sean Astin, escaping and coming back. I do remember that. I remember some of the small bits. So I think that stuff still works. I'm gonna say yes. I'm not going to say I loved it. I would say from that nostalgic lens, I think it still holds up. I'm not disappointed. Is it as good as I remember, like as far as like how I would want to view it now? No, but that might be too much of an ask.
I think I liked it more than you. I just think I had enough fun with it. Probably found maybe the second act to lag a little and the third act a little corny, but I was having enough fun with it where I was like, I'm on board. Like I'm okay. I'm able to give it some grace here. So I think I liked it probably a little bit more than you did. Does it absolutely hold up to pitch perfect to the memory? No, probably not. But would I watch this again? I'm like, yeah, I'd watch this again. I like it was fun enough where I wouldn't mind. Like if this was on TV, I didn't have anything going on, I would watch it.
Sure.
All right, well, I think we are ready to wrap up this conversation on Toy Soldiers. We are done, Rob, but just like some good old-fashioned terrorists, we have some demands.
Oh, boy.
Of the audience. We would like everyone to like the podcast if they haven't done so already, like this episode. Subscribe to the podcast. Leave us a 5-star review if you do, we'll read it live on air someday. Email us at carrayrob@gmail.com or reach out to us on Blue Sky at carrayrob.
Absolutely. If you would also share the podcast, that would mean the world to us. We are trying to get this show out to as many ears as possible, and any help we could get in that department would be greatly appreciated. If there is a comment section on whatever you are listening to us on, by all means, let us know what you thought of Toy Soldiers. Did it still hold up? Did it not? I want to know your favorite Sean Astin movie.
Oh boy,
how about that?
Maybe
non Lord of the Rings favorite Sean Astin movie. I definitely would love to hear that. We will be back next week with a very special episode of Say Hello to My Little Film. It is a 5th Monday month, which means that we are going to have a kids edition of Say Hello, and Mr. Kitty Kaiju will be back in the studio, and we are going to be showing him the classic comedy Dumb and Dumber.
Oh my God, I can't wait.
I know. I have dreamed of this moment, and I am hoping I'm not building it up too much in my head.
You have.
I have, and I don't think I could have done it any other way. But you're definitely not going to want to miss that. We will be back in 2 weeks, and it will be back to our regular scheduled Say Hello to My Little Film, and it will be back to me.
Yep, your turn.
First episode of October, and I have something I'm very excited to show Ray. I think he's really actually going to like it.
I don't like
I see the look on his face.
I don't like horror movies.
I didn't say it was a horror movie.
True.
Maybe it's not.
There's no way you give me an October movie that's not horror.
Yeah, well, you're going to have to wait to find out. But next month's Hello Movies, you're definitely not going to want to miss, because we are going to be revisiting when was this made?
1996?
Was it 97? 1997 superhero film Spawn.
Oh god. This could go bad.
This could go a lot of ways. This could be really bad. This is not a movie that's held in high regard. In fact, they're supposedly remaking it. But we have some interesting stories to go along with Spawn, but it has been a long time since we've watched it, so we are very excited to revisit it and see if maybe it's better than maybe either we remember it, people remember it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think I liked it at first, but it seems like since everybody's hating on it so much throughout time that we probably feel like, well, it can't be that good.
Exactly. So
maybe they're wrong. And
maybe they're wrong, and we're going to find out that it is a really great hidden gem. But you are not going to want to miss it either way. So until then, this is Car Ray Rob.
Where I'm Ray.
And I'm Rob. And remember, be defined by the films you love, not the ones you hate. Hello, movies. Hello, movies. Hello, movies. My oh.